What's up, and welcome to Freelance Friday. Like a lot of self-employed people, I wear a lot of hats. I'm an online educator, I'm a social media and marketing consultant, but I'm also a content creator. And the content creator role gets a lot of questions. I never really expected to become a full-time content creator and make a full-time, in my opinion, pretty good income just from the content creation piece alone. But it's here, and I know this is a job that a lot of people want to do. So I thought today we would dedicate this episode to that exactly. I've got 10 different tips that I want to share with you, things that I wish I would have known when I got started, things that I think could have gotten me to that full-time status faster, and hopefully they help you as well. First, let's talk about the actual creation piece, the actual content creation side of things. The first thing that I wish I would have known is that you just have to start. It's the simplest but hardest advice at the same time to give because we are often filled with just so much self-doubt about many different things. We often get stuck in this loop of needing to do research, needing to watch YouTube videos like this, podcasts like this to encourage us to get started. And that's absolutely natural. We all want to feel as prepared as possible for everything. I mean, before I go to a new hair salon, for example, I'm like Googling the street view so that I can make sure I know exactly where I'm going to park, right? It's the same kind of deal. But there is a certain point where you just have to get your foot out the door and just see what's out there. Just figure it out as you go along. And the truth is, in order to become full-time with content creation, you have to produce a lot of work. One of my favorite videos, I know I've shared it on the podcast before, but it's called The Gap. And it's just a quick little clip. I'll link it down below for you again. But basically, he talks about you got to create a whole lot of work and you're going to hate most of the work that you create in the beginning because you know what good work looks like. You know what good YouTube content or podcasts or whatever, TikToks look like. And you know that you're not there yet. That is the hardest point to be in because you know you can do better, but you just haven't figured out exactly how to do it yet. But you've got to just push through. You do. You got to produce a lot of stuff. Now, with that said, my second tip is that there's room. There is room for almost everybody. I hear it all the time, probably top 2 or 3 questions or concerns, I guess you could say, about creating content is that I'm too late. Latasha, it's got to be too late to start YouTube. It's got to be too late to start Instagram, whatever. And sure, there is a certain amount of success that we would be lying, if we didn't admit that it had to do with right time, right place, maybe a little bit of luck, maybe a few unfair advantages, right? Maybe you have a really amazing voice, maybe you have really amazing hair, maybe you live in New York City, so you have access to a lot of events and stuff, right? We can rack our brains all day about what we don't have, but the truth is what you do have is you. And I know that sounds cheesy. I know that sounds easy for you to say, Latasha, but there really is only one you. And because of that, there is room. You have a very unique perspective. And unless your strategy is to copy every other content creator in your niche, you're good. You have a unique perspective and you have something interesting to share. And somebody is going to identify with the way that you say it. I always felt like, oh, I'm too quiet to be a creator. I'm too laid back. I'm very chill. I'm not very hey guys, oh my gosh, I'm not very flashy. But I've heard from so many of you, that is what you love about my content. Now, some people don't like it, right? Some people look for those loud, flashy, bright color backgrounds, all of that. That's totally fine. But there are those of you who find exactly what you need here. And you got to focus on that abundance and what you do have, not what you don't have. You also need to focus, tip 3, on balancing quality and quantity. And, when I first started, maybe 10 years ago or so, it was quality over quantity, quality over quantity. That was what everybody said, make good content. People didn't even call it content back then. It was make good videos or write good blog posts. Today, I'm going to be honest, the times have changed. They really have. And it kind of pains me to admit it, but it is what it is. You've got to adapt with the times. And yes, quality does matter, but quantity matters too. We live in a very always on content world. It really moves at the speed of light. Things move so quickly. Things are so accessible. You can create content in your phones, so people expect and sometimes demand when you start to build up a loyal community, start to demand work quickly and consistently. And my advice to people when they ask how I've gotten to full-time YouTuber status is like I've created a YouTube video at least once per week for 10 years, which scares a lot of people. I know a lot of you are like, I'm out. I can't do that. That's too much. That's too long. I've only skipped maybe a handful of weeks in that 10 years. And yeah, that's hard, it's long, but it is a superpower being able to be consistent. At the same time, I think that I've consistently improved my video quality. I wasn't always making beautifully shot videos. I still don't always do it, necessarily, but I was improving with each video, with each year, with each, new setting, new filming background. I always tried to improve something. So you really have to figure out how to manage your output while maintaining quality. I think that's the major key. And I think you got to choose your quality lane. A lot of people think that means, oh, you need to have this beautiful cinematic filming setup, and you don't. Some creators film on their webcams. Some creators film on their iPhones, but they have really good content. They have a really good message to share. Others are kind of like giving a lot of fluff, to be honest, or maybe they're just more entertaining. They're not really changing your life necessarily by filming some vlog of them eating lunch and hanging out with their family or whatever, but the videos are shot really beautifully. So you got to decide like which area of quality do I really want to focus on? Of course, we all want to do both, but I think most people find their lane in one or the other. By the way, I'm hosting a live video workshop. I'll leave the link down in the show notes in the description box on YouTube. It's going to be all about kind of how I start with my main pillar content and focus on building up the quality and the consistency of that, and then repurpose it and build a whole strategy around marketing it. So it'll give you really a step-by-step roadmap if you want to get started, particularly with video content, but really any content strategy. It is totally free, but RSVP is required. So link is down below. Okay, now on the note of quality, here's the thing. Tip 4, you don't need to know everything. You really don't. You don't really need to know a lot. Think about your favorite creators. I mean, unless you are strictly watching like tech tutorials or step-by-step how-to content, most of us are, watching partially for entertainment and companionship and just finding someone who relates to us. We're not necessarily looking for like the meaning of life when we turn on YouTube or a podcast. And one of my friends, his name's Tom, I think he said it best on one of our calls that we had. I'm going to mess up the exact verbiage, but to very much paraphrase, he said something like, thought leaders are not actually people who have like these super divergent thoughts necessarily and are saying anything super revolutionary. Instead, they become thought leaders because they say what is on everybody else's mind. So chances are, as you're listening to this, you're like, yes, I agree with that. Yes, that's so right. I'm not necessarily teaching you everything under the sun. I mean, I hope you're learning something, but I'm sure a lot of you are just nodding along and being like, yes, that makes sense. I identify with that. I'm so glad she said that. And so just keep that in mind as you're creating your own content. You don't need to have all the answers. Sometimes it's about, filming, recording the journey. Sometimes it's about just elevating a belief or an idea that's already out there and just bringing it, more out there, bringing it more to the surface, I suppose. And similarly, tip 5, you don't have to have everything. I am actually recording on the road. If you can't tell, if you're watching on YouTube, you probably see that. I'm recording on the road. And yes, I booked a cool little studio. So I guess the background hopefully looks decently okay. But I've got a pretty cheap, vlogging camera. I've got a little cheap small microphone. Hopefully it's sounding all right. You make do with what you've got. You can use tools like Riverside, which are web-based recording tools to host guests or just to record yourself, and that look really amazing. You can get really great quality video with those. You can use your iPhone nowadays. Like seriously, whenever somebody tells me they don't have the right equipment to start YouTube or a podcast, I'm like, that's just not true. Similarly to choosing your quality lane, do you want to be more educational and really give good tips and advice? or do you want to create something really beautiful? Think about what is most important to you in terms of video quality or visual quality. For me, an area that I consistently get compliments on, again, maybe not today since I'm using my little baby travel mic, but I consistently get compliments on my audio. And I realized early on that that was something that was really important to people, that they didn't really care so much if I recorded with my iPhone or a vlog camera or a fancy DSLR or mirrorless camera, but if my audio was messed up, I would see lower performance. So you've got to figure out what your sweet spot is. And I honestly think nowadays for a lot of people, it's audio. And yeah, you can use something simple like Riverside in your webcam or your iPhone or whatever and get just decent quality video for most things. Let's go on to the business side of things. So the first thing I wish I knew about creating a true business out of content creation is that there are many, many different ways to earn a living. And most importantly, that you shouldn't rely on just one. When I first started YouTube and learning about monetization, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so great when you get invited to the YouTube Partner Program because that's how ads run on your YouTube videos and you're going to get paid and it's going to be amazing. And it is amazing. Like, I feel so grateful that that is a revenue stream. But the thing is, it's a very small revenue stream for me. And it's actually went down over the years, even though my channel has grown. It's only grown. So if I would have only relied on that, I wouldn't make it. Today, this year, I'll be lucky if I make 20, 25 grand from YouTube ads alone, which I'm not hand waving away as nothing. Absolutely not. But 25 grand for most people who live in the United States, that's not a full-time income. The year before I made 40. The year before that I made 60. So it's actually really going down. And it is for a lot of creators actually, despite their growing channels. So that's a whole other topic, but the point is you can't just rely on one income stream. I make money through, yes, YouTube ads, but also sponsorships, also digital product sales, also public speaking. You can do user-generated content. I get some of my highest, actually, contracts have been for user-generated content. I have earned a salary, for filming a couple of quick videos. But yeah, these are all options and there's so many more. There's merchandise, there's communities, there's fan funding. If you do a live show and you get like donations, that's something I haven't even explored really. So figure out your lane when it comes to monetization as well. Figure out how you're going to make money, how much money you need to make, and don't just rely on one income stream, please. Also, tip 2 on the business front, you should always negotiate for like pretty much anything that a brand is paying you for. Brand sponsorships, you can't negotiate with YouTube AdSense, unfortunately. I would like to have a word with them, but if a brand is paying you, negotiate. I just went to a conference with Sidewalker Daily. My friend Nina owns this company, and there was a speaker there. Her name's Monet. Her whole talk was all about redlining contracts and pushing back, on contracts. She's a full-time travel creator. She makes amazing, beautiful content. And, it was just really helpful to hear that, yes, other successful creators are reading these contracts and saying, no, I don't agree with that term. And they're not living in that scarcity mindset of feeling like they're going to lose the contract completely if they advocate for themselves. Some things that I always look out for and that Monet also validated in her talk is in perpetuity, or anything that refers to using my content forever for a brand. We got to have a serious conversation. You got to be paying me a lot more. And a lot of times I don't even want to agree to sign off on something like that. What if the brand does something absolutely wild and gets in some scandal, and 10 years after I signed a $2,000 contract, they're still using my face in their advertising? Now I'm associated with that brand, right? Similarly, usage rights, ad spend, those are all things that should be negotiated to get you a higher payout, a higher contract. Also, exclusivity. If I work with Shure microphones, can I work with a different microphone brand next month? This is all really important to keep in mind. And just remember that everything in a contract is negotiable. You just have to ask. And if you're not sure, work with a lawyer who can help you. Next is a little bit of an inconvenient truth, but who you know really does matter. We often think of content creation as such a solo job. It's something that you can do from home. It's very much about your ideas and your perspective. But honestly, it does take a lot of work to actually get an idea all the way through the finish line to publication, but then also monetization, right? So just like I was talking about maybe working with a lawyer, you might want to work with a manager. You might want to hire a video editor or a photographer or a copywriter. There are so many different roles that you can, not necessarily have to, but can consider hiring for and getting help with. I personally do all of my own creative stuff for the most part, although I'm working with a designer right now to create a new brand identity for one of my projects coming soon. I'm so excited about that. I also work with a talent manager who helps me get brand deals nowadays. And I've went back and forth of being solo versus talent manager. And right now I'm really loving working with him. So there's that. But also, who you know matters in terms of networking and getting to know people, which, like I said, is a bit of an inconvenient truth. I'm very introverted. I'm a Midwesterner, so I often feel like alone on an island. I don't get to go to cool events in New York and LA and brand trips and stuff like that. So it can be a bit discouraging sometimes, but try to lean into it if you can, I guess, because there have been so many times when a friend has referred me for a brand deal, for example, or has just been able to help me shoot content, right? When we're traveling or at home or whatever, we can do content days together, or can help me with my content strategy. My friend Ryan, he just totally a couple months ago was like, why don't you do this? And I think it was the most brilliant idea. And so he really helped me a lot. And I like to think that I help him as well with things. So getting to know people is really important. You don't necessarily have to do this in person. Luckily, there are so many ways to network and get to know each other online. I think Threads is a really great platform for meeting other content creators. But you can also join, a group, a networking group, a community, a mastermind, something like that, and really talk shop. It really is helpful because this career can be very lonely in a lot of ways, especially, like I said, if you do live somewhere, a little bit less hot for content creation, like I live in Michigan. A lot of people don't understand what I do. When they ask me what I do for a living, they're like, what? Or they have this kind of stereotype in their head about what a content creator is like and think I'm just some raging narcissist or something. So it's really nice to have people who know what you do. Fourth tip when it comes to business is that feelings and numbers matter. Again, content creation, yes, it's very about you. It's about your unique perspective. It's about your unique creative lens and all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's also a business. It's a job. And you have to be able to separate yourself a little bit from the ownership of creating and be able to look at things logically. I always say data is how you make decisions. One of my bosses at my corporate job actually used to say that, and it used to drive me nuts a little bit, but she was so right. Our creative ideas, that's the spaghetti that we throw at the wall. But what tells us what is actually going to stick and what we should actually run with, that is the data. That's the analytics. Those are the numbers, right? And we have to look at those things at least once in a while. I do think it is important, just like quantity versus quality balance. It's important to balance data versus creativity. I can't just make something that I know is going to feed the algorithm. I have to feel like I'm doing it in a creative way. I have to feel like I'm doing it in an authentic way. But there are little tweaks that you can make to make them more numbers friendly, more algorithm friendly, more audience friendly, really is how we should be thinking. And so, yeah, keep the doors of communication open. Look at your analytics, but also look at your comments and see what people are consistently requesting and do more of that if it feels right for you creatively. It's not just a solo venture. It really isn't. And then lastly, I want to talk about quickly the fact that income will fluctuate. Unlike other businesses and some of the other hats that I wear in my business, the consulting, my rate has pretty much only went up. Now, the number overall has went down in some years intentionally because I've chosen to take on less client work, but my individual rate for marketing consulting has only went up. The more years of experience, the more in demand I get, I can charge more. Even like courses or digital products, they've pretty much only went up unless I intentionally, retired courses or stopped, chosen not to run something Content creation, though, has really been a roller coaster. I have probably never made more money as a content creator. In like 2021 was probably my peak for that specific revenue stream. Why? Because everybody was at home, because I had this really captive audience, because everybody was really clinging to watching content creators for, mental health reasons and, entertainment reasons. Brands were paying like wild. There was this crypto boom as well. I didn't really get involved in the brand deal side of that, but I think it just caused this really big investment in tech, and so brands were just like shelling out money like nobody's business. But things go down and then they come back up again. It's a very unique business in that way, I think, and you have to prepare for that. I think content creators can really fall victim to lifestyle creep or business creep. Oh, I need the biggest, best camera. I need a big fancy house to film my content in. I need to hire 10 people. And it's really important, I think, that if you are in an industry that fluctuates so much, I think it's important for anybody, but particularly in industries that fluctuate that much, that you really resist that lifestyle creep, that you really put away cash and save for a rainy day. I try to live like I am making the same amount that I made in 2018, more or less. I try not to go overboard with any of my spending or hiring or anything like that. And I just put away, the money. I'm like, 2021 was a great year. That's a little nest egg. I'm going to put that nest egg away into a high yield interest savings account, retirement accounts, investment accounts, all the things. And we're just going to be happy that happened. I'm not going to necessarily expect that every year moving forward. Now, of course, it tells me what's possible. And of course, I can strive to make more money and, keep up with that. But I know that just full-time content creation, it a lot of times is dependent on so many things, the economy and what brands are willing to spend, how much you're willing to work. This year, I haven't been working a lot, honestly. I've been focusing on my health. So it is very unique in that sense, I think. All right, so those are the things I wish I knew before I started trying to become a full-time content creator. I really hope this was helpful for you. If you are new here, please subscribe to the podcast. It's called Freelance Friday. It's available on Apple and Spotify. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.